joining us. It has been a busy week. CBS News fired Scott Pelley for the crime of being too cool in a meeting. The DOJ is investigating George Santos for insider trading on Kalshi because, of course. And there was the headline, masturbation among birds is natural and should not be punished, say experts. Which sounds like what Sesame Street's PR team would say if Big Bird got caught Jeffrey Tubening on a work Zoom. Don't worry, it's natural for birds, no punishment necessary. Meanwhile, Trump announced he'd nominate Todd Blanche, his former lawyer, for Attorney General, a man whose impartiality is probably best summed up by these remarks he made after being named acting AG last month.
I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime. And if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir.
Jesus, Todd! There is sucking up and there's whatever that was. It sounds like he's freestyling a version of Green Eggs and Ham about what he's willing to do for the president. I'd kiss his ass on a boat. I'd tickle his balls with a goat. I love the president with my soul. I yield to him my every hole. This week also saw primaries take place around the country. Congressman Tom Kaine Jr. won in New Jersey, despite the fact he's not been seen in public for nearly 3 months, with his chief of staff even saying mysteriously, there's no cameras where Tom is, which is wild given there are cameras literally everywhere. And if you don't believe me, just ask the birds, who, despite being very natural and private about it, masturbated their way onto the news. But perhaps the craziest race this year is for governor of Colorado. For the Democrats, the leading contenders are Colorado's AG and one of its senators. But on the Republican side, things are much wilder. There are 3 candidates. State Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer has been painted as the adult in the room, which is striking given she once led an attempt to pursue secession and form a 51st state. But the other 2 candidates are something else. Take Scott Bottoms. At this week's candidate debate, he had this alarming exchange with the moderator.
You've said that you are deeply honored to have the endorsement of your good friend Joe Altman, the MAGA podcaster who has called for the execution by hanging of Colorado's governor, attorney general, and secretary of state, who he calls synagogue of Satan Jews. If you're elected governor, would Mr. Altman have a role in your administration?
Assuming it's not around Jewish people, probably.
Holy shit! Look, probably is a fine answer to questions like, will the sun rise tomorrow, or has Mike Lindell ever fucked a pillow? But it is not ideal when you've just been asked, if someone spewed anti-Semitic rhetoric, would you still hire them? Then there is Victor Marx, a self-described high-risk humanitarian who also claims to be the world's fastest gun disarmer and a 7th-degree black belt in Cajun karate Kai-Chu. Something apparently invented by his dad as a form of 100% American Christian karate. Over the years, Marx has made some wild claims, and when the journalist who moderated that debate sat down with him last week, he addressed one of the big ones.
Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old, is that the only person you've ever killed?
Well, I would say, as a child, yes, and without question. But I've been in other situations where, possibly people or persons died as a result of me defending myself in other countries.
Do you think that you've killed people as an adult?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think I'd say so too. I didn't think anyone needed to say our elected officials should at least have a guesstimate of how many people they've killed, but it seems we're in a new era right now. There's protein in the Pop-Tarts. The rules are over. And look, I'm not saying a 7th-degree black belt in karate their dad made up isn't capable of killing, but it's not great that a potential governor of Colorado has an aura best described as the final hour of a true crime documentary. And incredibly, that interview got even wilder because it turns out Marx also performs exorcisms, or as he calls them, spiritual warfare. And that reporter had some understandable questions.
You command the demons out of someone. Can you explain to folks how that works so they can hear you describe it?
Well, I don't command the demons to come out of someone. I think of them as assignments or attachments to people. and we identify the demon, like Jesus did. We ask what their name is, and then we give them commands, and they very frequently and typically will answer. Through the person's mind, they'll tell us what they hear, and then we destroy them, banish them to perfect judgment from Christ.
You also perform these exorcisms by phone. Are those just as effective?
They are.
Oh, I'm sure. In fact, I bet they're even more effective, because even for a demon, I can't imagine a worse hell than being stuck on the phone with yassified Billy Mays here. Now, Marx was on the debate stage this week, and during which that reporter asked him this truly incredible question.
You claim that you've been all around the world armed to the teeth rescuing women and children from captivity, that you've stopped human smugglers at the Mexico border and made them pay a price, that you as a civilian called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters, that you were the first American into Gaza during the war with Israel, that you've done 150 high-risk missions and every one has been a success. You told me last week that it's all true and that you don't need to prove it to anyone. But you're talking to voters now. How should voters decide whether you've lived one of the most extraordinary lives in human history or whether you're a liar and a fraud?
Spectacular. That might be the first debate in history won by the moderator. And just look at his co-host there, who must be thinking, hey, I didn't know we were allowed to be sassy bitches tonight. And if you are thinking there is no answer that could possibly be stranger than that question, I'm afraid you are wrong.
I can't help it if I've had an extraordinary life. I'm an ordinary fella. And starting from my childhood all the way to now, me standing up on a stage running for governor, Reagan, I said I was going to talk about you. Come, seats. This little dog, she's going to go bite you right now, Kyle. She was in Syria and Iraq. So is she lying too?
Incredible. That is a grand slam answer to a home run question. His brain is truly one of a kind, because who else on earth would hear the question, are you a fraud, and even think to answer with, hey, are you calling my dog a liar? Also, I love how the dog is looking straight into the camera there, as if to say the Craigslist ad said nothing about Syria. That man is so weird, and he's even weird by Colorado standards. A state whose major airport features gargoyles and suitcases over the baggage claim area in order to help ensure the safe arrival of baggage, whatever the fuck that means. And outside has this 32-foot blue Mustang statue with glowing red eyes. Its nickname is Blucifer, and fun fact, while it was being finished, a piece fell off and killed the artist who made it, and yet somehow, even in a state that is home to luggage gargoyles and a homicidal airport horse demon, the weirdest resident is still this fucking guy. Anyway, Colorado's primary is on June 30th, so there'll be more to say about it in the coming weeks, or maybe not. Because I don't really know what more there is to say about a guy who's coy about how many people he's killed and offers dial-up exorcisms. All I'm saying here is that if you are a Republican in Colorado, I would strongly recommend a write-in candidate for governor. Because frankly, the most sensible individual on that stage this week was the one with 4 paws and a Jim from The Office stare. And now, this.
And now, prom season has people on TV feeling nostalgic.
Do you remember your prom, who you took, what you wore?
I remember all of it.
You do? Okay.
It was all right.
Good memories?
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
It's high school. Well, prom, I'm glad to be past it.
Did you go to prom? Were you allowed to say prom at your hometown if there was a bunch of people who didn't want you dancing? My grandma still thought I went to a banquet.
I went to 3 proms. I still remember.
Big baller.
I had a guy light prom on fire for me. Yeah.
What? He burned the school down? That's commitment.
It was rope with gasoline. Not safe. Don't do it.
My senior year was the year of Chumbawamba.
My prom was Welcome to the Jungle.
What?
Yeah, Welcome to the Jungle.
Mine was Wind Beneath Your Wings.
Oh, God.
Welcome to the jungle.
You look like you guys had a good time.
What'd you guys do after prom? What was your after prom?
So we didn't go to the after prom party. Full transparency, I got a hotel room.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a party.
Let's just stop the conversation right there. Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns college, the setting of beloved American works of art like Matt Damon Does Math, Dorks Do Sex Crimes, and, I'm sorry, Chevy said what to who? Specifically, we're going to talk about New College of Florida, a small, quirky, state-funded school which used to promote itself like this.
The culture at New College is as unique as our academic program. There's really a strong sense of camaraderie and community amongst both the student, the faculty, and the staff.
I've never been to a place where everybody just had such, good intentions for each other.
It's a very inclusive community, and it's full of unique people, both the faculty, staff, and students. We're all pretty unique in our own right, and so it's nice for us all to live and work together in this one-of-a-kind community.
Yeah, it seems nice, doesn't it? I'll be honest, I could have done without the multiple barefoot students in class, but that is just me. I'm going to say something Quentin Tarantino's never uttered in his life. For the love of God, put some shoes on. Bare feet are something you should only show your partner, your doctor, and your hundreds of followers on OnlyFans. You want the piggies? You pay the price. And if you are thinking, why are you talking about a tiny college in Florida? Well, a few years ago, it was actually national news.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is transforming a liberal arts school into a conservative institution.
The campus now at the center of a conservative takeover after DeSantis appointed 6 political allies to its board of trustees.
It's another bold move, and I'm cheering it on. Florida's Governor DeSantis has launched the takeover, I'd call it a hostile takeover, of a college known for its ultra-progressive policies.
OK, can I be vulnerable for a minute? Do I sound like that? I know some people can't distinguish one British accent from another, but please, tell me I don't sound like that. That is the accent of a man who just spit on an orphan. He sounds like someone who just threw a kid's wooden leg on a fire to keep warm. But anyway, what happened was, back when Ron DeSantis still thought he had a shot at being president, he made a lot of noise about how he was going to de-wokeify New College, despite admitting he didn't know much about it.
You know, when I became governor, I remember the Speaker of the House at the time came to me and said, hey, we need to talk about New College. I didn't know what it was. I was like, we need a new college? We have enough colleges in Florida. He's like, no. He's like, no. New college in Sarasota. He's like, I want to shut it down. It's communist, all this stuff. I'm like, what? Let me see. Look, if you want to go be, on some like Marxist commune, if that's what you want to do with your life, look, who am I to say? But I don't want the taxpayers of Florida funding that. That's just not the way it goes.
OK, so there is a lot there, but I have to say that of the many, many stereotypes people have of Florida, I don't think anyone would describe it as a place with too many colleges. I say this with medium respect to the state. It's known for having too many lots of things, too many gators, too many swamps, too many fist-sized bugs, and exactly one too many Rons DeSantis. But no one is ever going to reasonably accuse Florida of excessive academia. Nevertheless, DeSantis decided to make a big show out of picking a fight with New College by literally taking it over. He appointed 6 new board members who were political allies, including Chris Rufo, the conservative activist who then tweeted, "We are now over the walls and ready to transform higher education from within." Now, if Rufo is at all familiar to you, it may be because we've talked about him before in our shows on critical race theory and trans rights. And quick spoiler, he wasn't exactly the hero of those stories. He was more like a cartoon supervillain if they dressed exclusively in Land's End and looked like the picture on a megachurch's website paired with the post titled "How I Turned My Hands to God After Spending Years Masturbating 8 times a day." Rufo is constantly sounding the alarm over the woke indoctrination of young people, but being appointed as a trustee at New College actually represented something new for him, a chance to put his ideas into practice. And as he explained at the time, his goal was nothing less than to offer a blueprint for what Conservatives could then do for education nationwide.
This has really never been done before. Conservatives have been ceding territory institutionally, decade after decade after decade, for the past half century. And never once have they said, we're going to actually go and retake an institution. We're actually going to go and recapture a university. It starts with this hostile takeover of the New College of Florida on the beaches of Sarasota. And if we are to be successful, I think that we're going to create a model for red state governors all over the country.
That is pretty aggressive, and while I don't want to give any pointers to Rufo, why would you choose that picture to represent your enemy? I don't want to take that over. If anything, I just want to ask if they need one more for hacky sack. That might be the most beautiful place I have ever seen. It's the first image I've ever encountered that makes me want to go to Florida, and I mean ever. Now, that was 3 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. Ron DeSantis, you may have noticed, did not become president. But this guy did, and his administration is now trying to carry out a similar anti-woke agenda throughout higher ed, with Chris Rufo very much cheering them on. So given all that, we thought tonight it might be worth checking in on New College to see what exactly happened when a bunch of anti-woke crusaders were given free rein and nearly unlimited resources to build a school on their own terms. I'll give you a hint, it's not going great. And before we talk about what New College has become, a quick mention of what it once was. It was founded in the 1960s to be a college with complete freedom of inquiry, a place where no grades would be given and where they focused on independent study, with each student working closely together with their professors. And over time, even as it became part of Florida's publicly funded higher ed system, it gained a reputation for being LGBTQ friendly, with an exceptionally personalised approach to education.
Students are allowed to propose their own classes and find someone who's willing to sort of help them out with it, and then we sort of journey together.
You can invent anything you want to study.
Ultimately, I could take whatever classes I want. I could make up classes. I could make up my own major.
Like, I got to shadow a doctor as an undergraduate.
I've been very happy to have a lot of students interested in kind of somewhat esoteric chemistry topics that, you know, I'm totally willing to explore with them.
Yeah, I bet you are. In fact, there are exactly 3 things I'm sure of in this world. 1, death comes for all of us. 2, Stephen Miller cries when he comes. And 3, this man is totally willing to explore esoteric chemistry topics with you. In case it wasn't obvious already, New College was a school for, and I say this with love, nerds and dorks. Its whole deal is perhaps best summed up by the fact that years ago, when students were unable to agree on a college mascot, as a placeholder, the school constitution wrote in a set of empty brackets to be replaced when a new mascot was ultimately chosen. But students then made those brackets their mascot, and from then on, the mathematical term for brackets, the null set, served as New College's mascot, which might be the single dorkiest thing I have ever heard. Typically, a mascot is adorable or terrifying or horny or a healthy combination of all 3. But no, not for this college full of Sheldons. They went another way. And while the whole design your own curriculum, we don't give out grades approach might make you roll your eyes, you should know that the results were pretty impressive. A report from 2018 showed that 80% of New College's graduates attended grad school within 5 years of graduation, and the school ranked 3rd in the nation among all public and private universities in producing graduates who earned doctoral degrees. Which is not to say it didn't also have problems. Like many small liberal arts colleges, it suffered from years of declining enrolment, which in turn led to increasing disinvestment from the Florida state legislature. Though when DeSantis took over the school in 2023, there were already signs that it was on an upswing. A recently appointed president had helped recruit the largest entering class since 2016, and many students and faculty were feeling optimistic, which is what makes it so galling that at Chris Rufo's first big address to the college community, he seemed to go out of his way to tell them just how much their school sucked.
Every single person, with one exception that I've talked to, behind closed doors says New College has a culture problem. And even the consultants that the university has hired, they said that New College has become an echo chamber. When they did a study, these consultants hired by the college, they said that the 3 words, the 3 phrases that most describe the culture here, quote, politically correct, druggies, weirdos. The vast majority of you, 95% roughly, agree with me that there are significant problems here. No.
Look, I don't think Rufo will ever experience real justice. But there is something satisfying about him having to sit there as a crowd tells him he is the problem, while he waves a sweaty piece of paper saying, according to this study, you agree with me. And about that druggies and weirdos thing, as is so often the case with Rufo, he's taking a real thing and exaggerating it without key context. Because it is true that there was a report by consultants that polled accepted applicants on perceptions of New College, and in one subsection it tested perceptions about the social culture at the school. But it only gave people 6 phrases to choose from and made a point of saying potentially negative associations with the college were intentionally included. And I would argue 5 of the 6 options were pretty negative, given, as you can see, the remaining 3 were crunchy granola, slackers, and at a school with 0 fraternities or sororities, Greeks. It's like me announcing that polls show the celebrity I look most like is Remy the Rat. and then revealing the only other option was The Rock. I mean, sure. On a scale of rat to rock, I lean hard in one direction. But it was a pretty unfair question from the start. Also, elsewhere in that report, far higher percentages describe the school with terms like excellent faculty, personal attention, and rigorous courses. But despite all that, Rufo and the other trustees set about making big changes. One of the biggest was bringing in a new president, Richard Corcoran, a former Speaker of the Florida House. And as you would expect, for a man holding a hammer that comically large, right from the start, he took some big, dumb swings.
You have requested $2 million state dollars for a cancel culture center.
We requested $2 million for a cancel culture center. Why? Because it needs to happen. We need a nationwide beacon that says this is how you do it. We're going to have great debates out here on the yard. Liberals, conservatives, come. Let the students be exposed to every aspect.
OK, first, calling it a cancel culture centre is pathetic. It sounds like the headquarters of a cult founded by Russell Brand, which is barely even a joke, given that he was invited to be a guest speaker at New College on the topic of thinking without permission, which is a bold sequence of words given as, you know, everything. Fun fact, by the way, his appearance at the cancel culture school is currently postponed, but Corcoran quickly made it clear that he was determined to change New College's culture, including by convincing the board to change its mascot from the null set to this, the mighty banyan tree. And I admit, if you wanted the spiritual opposite of a set of brackets, this steroid tree would be it. It looks like Groot if he hulked. It looks like the trees from Wizard of Oz if they guzzled creatine and got really into the manosphere. If Samantha from Sex and the City saw that tree, she'd say, shiver me timbers, talk about some hard wood. I'd let him split me open and count my Nuva ring. Girls, that tree would make a fabulous fuck. But the mascot change was just the beginning. For all Corcoran's rhetoric about building a school that would engage in great debates, certain sides were deliberately purged. For instance, the school got rid of its gender studies programme, with Rufo bragging they'd gotten rid of a massive and radical department that indoctrinates students, despite the fact that in reality it had a budget of just $7,000 for programmes and expenses and a part-time office manager. And when the students were away on break, the school cleared out the Gender and Diversity Centre, which was basically just a lounge with couches and a student-curated library, and threw all the books away. Rufo even gleefully retweeted coverage of that, saying, we abolished the gender studies programme, now we're throwing out the trash. And setting aside that one of those books is a book of fucking puzzles, I don't even want to say what I need to say right now, so I'm not going to say it. That said, and remember, I am not saying this, but say what you will about, here it comes, the Nazis, but stick with me. Credit where it's due, I know. When the Nazis went after books, they went big. They didn't wait for the students to be on break. At least the Nazis, I hear it too, were bold. And as all this was happening, many professors were being fired, quitting, or taking leave. In fact, just months into the takeover, more than a third of New College's faculty had left for part or all of the upcoming academic year. And what that meant was some students were suddenly left without teachers or advisors for their majors, which, as this mother of one student majoring in marine biology explains, put them in a tough spot.
She logged in to see her classes, and her classes were all gone. There was not one class for marine bio that was being offered, and she called the school, and the response was, oh, we don't have the teachers on staff to teach those classes anymore, so just go pick something else. I'm like, what? And she was like, what?
Yeah, that's not great, is it? Especially because it's not like anything else is kind of like marine biology. No one wants to dedicate their life to studying the dark pits where we keep our worst and weirdest freaks. We'll be content studying anything else. What are they supposed to do instead? Study literature? You think a student could be wowed by reading Moby Dick after they've already seen literal hell? Or math, you are telling me someone can get wet for numbers after they've seen The Angel That Killed God? No way, these kids have been event horizons. They need two things, a marine biology teacher and to be left alone forever. And look, so far, I've focused on the things that have been destroyed, but it is also worth looking at what has been built. Because to hear Rufo tell it, all of this was just to reorient New College toward a simple goal.
We're getting the college
back to basics, back to the classical liberal arts, and I'm certainly not going to apologize for that.
OK, Chris, then don't apologise. I'd maybe consider apologising for going on TV looking like a Keebler elf graduated from Wharton, but hold strong on everything else, you're doing great. The thing is, though, that classical liberal arts education seems so far to involve a heavy dose of culture war bullshit. For instance, Corcoran brought in presidential scholars in residence, which included controversial figures like Bruce Gilley, author of the book The Case for Colonialism, which argues that European colonialism was actually a good thing. Huge for me, if true. And has also written that for Africans, being enslaved under the British Empire was about as good as it got, which is a big old yikes. And the college also started something called the Socratic Stage Dialogue series, which it says seeks to advance free speech, civil discourse and fearless dialogue. But it seems pretty clear which ideas they want to promote, given that while they've had the occasional speaker like Bill Nye, they've generally skewed strongly rightward and have included the likes of Ron DeSantis, Tom Homan and Alan Dershowitz, who, fun fact, actually spoke at their commencement too. And it is a bold choice to go with a speaker so tied to Jeffrey Epstein you could mistake him for a noose. Meanwhile, there have been some questionable administrative hires. At one point, they hired a guy who'd worked as a spokesperson for DeSantis and Corcoran as the school's communications director. He'd already been embroiled in a political sexting scandal, and then soon after he was hired, he was arrested for indecent exposure, which he blamed on medications he was taking. But the thing is, if they'd done their homework properly before hiring him, they'd have learned that it was by no means a one-off incident.
Fred Piccolo has 3 separate cases open in Sarasota County. The first incident allegedly happened back in August. An affidavit says he went into a dressing room at the Banana Republic in University Town Hall and stood with his pants down and shirt off in front of the store's assistant manager. A week and a half later, another person reported Piccolo to police for doing the same thing in a Dillard's dressing room. And one day after that, he's accused of doing the same thing to a different person at that same Dillard's.
Yeah, not great. And listen, I think we all know malls have been struggling for a while now. Department stores like Dillard's especially need support, but if they want to get their name back into the national conversation, might I suggest changing their slogan from Dillard's, the style of your life, to Dillard's, please don't whip out your dick here. It might be just the viral marketing splash that they need, but hey, I'm just spitballing here. It's not like I'm the head of marketing somewhere, and it turns out now neither is he. Now, as for Dean of Students, they hired David Rancourt, a Florida lobbyist with no relevant experience in higher education. The most noteworthy thing he's done since then was participate in a school stand-up comedy night. Here is just a taste of his set, and I'll spare you the full setup. Just know it involves him at age 7 and a girl the same age called Susie, who was always showing off that she had more than he did, until one day this happened.
I said, Susie, I want to show you something. Whipped down my pants. I pulled out that little pecker and I said, this is called a penis. I got one, you don't have one. She kind of looks at me, doesn't say anything. We go to school, everything's good. Next morning I get up, I walk on down the school bus stop feeling really good about myself. I see that little bitch, she's got a big old grin on her face. Big old grin on her face. And I go, all right, Susie, what you got? She looks at me, smiles, lifts up her skirt and says, David, my mama says I got one of these. I have as many of those as I want.
Yeah. So, quick stand-up tip. Maybe don't tell a story in which you show a child your dick and call her a little bitch. Not only does it make you sound like a raging pervert, it also sounds like you stole it from a joke book your grandpa kept in his bathroom called Uncle Dick's Filthy Fart Stravaganza of dirty jokes and toilet giggles. Now, I should say, when asked for comment on that routine, a New College spokesperson said, cancel culture is over at New College, comedy is a work of art. Which, I'll be honest, is what a lot of comedians say right after they bomb. And remember, he was the fucking Dean of Students. Although, to be fair, he is not in that job anymore. But that's only because he's been promoted to Vice Provost. Still, I will give the new administration credit for one thing. They did actually manage to increase enrolment. They proudly announced a new incoming class of 328 students for the first full academic year of Corcoran's tenure. But there is a big asterisk on that number, because former admissions office employees have claimed the school boosted enrolment by sharply lowering standards. One recalled a colleague showing him an admissions essay that was a screenshot of cell phone notes riddled with incorrect spelling and grammar, and apparently that person went on to be accepted. And to be clear, When recruiting, New College was apparently selecting for a very specific type of student, as this video from Chris Rufo makes clear.
In a single academic term, President Corcoran has engineered the beginnings of an incredible turnaround. He's also begun the work of changing the culture, hiring a new slate of all-star faculty and recruiting a new cohort of mostly male student athletes who will begin to rebalance the hormones and the politics on campus.
Well, so there is a lot to unpack there, but let's start with the phrase rebalancing the hormones, because unless you are a doctor, a nurse, or a woman whose TikTok algorithm is telling her that she's perimenopausal, you do not need to be discussing rebalancing hormones. But Rufo has openly said he wants to change New College's gender makeup. Apparently, before the takeover, 2/3 of its students were women, and he said that that was a wildly out-of-balance population that caused all sorts of cultural problems. By the fall of Corcoran's first full academic year, the school had increased male enrolment by more than 23 percentage points. And as that video suggested, the way they did that was by recruiting a fuck-ton of male athletes. Of those 328 new students, 115 were student athletes, with 70 enrolled for baseball alone. They recruited 70 baseball players. I want to make absolutely sure you are hearing me here. 70 baseball players. That is multiple dozen too many. For context, the University of Florida, which has a student body 60 times New College's size, had only 37 student athletes on its baseball team that year. And it gets even more ridiculous when you learn that they recruited, again, 70 baseball players to a school that at that point had no intercollegiate athletics program and didn't even have a baseball field. So they were just bringing in ball players and expecting one to magically appear like some kind of reverse Field of Dreams. And while it is not important, I do still need you to know that of those initial recruits, fully 12 of them were listed as catchers, with 7 first basemen. And the school made a point of prioritising those athletes over returning students like this one.
Marshall Bustamante is about to start his 4th and final year at New College, but even before the semester begins, he's learning senior stripes no longer guarantees you first choice at senior digs.
Who took over your room?
Well, I mean, the administration removed me from my room so that athletes could be there.
That's bullshit, though, isn't it? Senior housing is one of the only good things about being a senior. You shouldn't have to worry about losing decent housing in an insanely competitive and cutthroat marketplace. That is for, as we all know, the rest of your life. And if you're wondering why baseball players would even want to come to a school without a baseball field, New College made it worth their while, because despite scoring worse on average than other applicants, incoming student athletes earned a disproportionate number, around half of the school's new $10,000 per year merit-based scholarships. Scholarships, by the way, that were paid for out of an extra $15 million that DeSantis got for New College from the state legislature. And if you're thinking, that's an awful lot of money to spend just to rebalance the hormones of a small school, you're right about that, but then money has seemingly been no object when it comes to this project. In fact, a state audit last year found that the public cost to produce a degree at New College had swelled in 2024 to nearly $500,000, dwarfing what has been spent per student at any other public university. In fact, here is the chart from that report, showing by how much New College is outspending all the other state schools. And while Corcoran dismissed that report, saying it compares apples to oranges and simply reflects a one-time investment to improve infrastructure after years of deferred maintenance, it is worth noting that no new dormitories or other major projects have broken ground since his appointment, including that cancel culture centre. But at the same time, administrative costs have ballooned, with one major expenditure being Corcoran's own salary. Because when you include perks and bonuses, he has the highest per-student salary of any president in Florida's university system, worth more than $1 million a year, all of which makes it more than a little infuriating that when he took the stage at that stand-up comedy night, this is how he opened his set.
Thank you. I'm actually the president of New College, and you got to... Yeah. The job doesn't really pay well, but it's a good job.
OK, if, gun to my head, I had to say something positive about that, he did manage not to talk about flashing a 7-year-old girl with his dick, and I now know that's not nothing. Look, in case it's not clear by now, the whole New College experiment has been a complete shit show. In researching this piece, we talked to so many students, and one big takeaway was that while they're grateful that some of the old faculty have tried to stick around and help them, the school's administration seems to care much more about political posturing than it does about their actual lives. And it is not like no one saw this coming. Just listen to this student interviewed not long after the takeover, outlining what she could see happening right in front of her.
It feels like New College has become a political playground to try out what these people want the country to be. I'm upset. This is my education.
Exactly. She's right. She and everyone else at that school deserve for their education to not be co-opted by a bunch of dipshits doing political theatre for their own gain. As we all know, the only theatre done in college should look like this. That is me, in college, doing theatre. Yeah, I waited this whole episode to show you that, and I only showed it to you because I lost a bet. And it is infuriating that a key leader of all of this has seemingly abandoned his post. Because Chris Rufo, despite claiming he was going to reinvent education, left the Board of Trustees this year, only to be replaced by former football coach turned broadcaster Urban Meyer, which, sure, at this point, fuck it, why not? Meanwhile, Corcoran is still there and is insisting that his makeover's outcomes cannot be reasonably measured until 2028, which you'll never guess happens to be when his contract expires. And look, the stated mission of those behind the takeover of New College wasn't just to recapture an institution, but to provide a model for red states to then replicate. But if this is that model, it fucking sucks. Because it is possible to create a college that instills conservative values. There are plenty of places that have done that slowly over a long period of time. I don't want to go to any of them, but I at least recognise that they took real work to build. But this is pathetic. And depressingly, it is the exact sort of smash and grab we're seeing in so many places right now, from public health to newspapers to broadcast news. Ideologues capturing something that they hate, claiming that they want to fix it, and then destroying it instead. But seldom has that move been more blatant than watching people talk about great debates and classical education, only to then drive away faculty, refer to books as trash, and assemble a veritable Avengers of D-list conservative celebrities, creeps and weirdos, all so that they can lecture the world's single largest baseball team. That they have destroyed a rare haven for gentle nerds. And all they've really given us in return is one, admittedly, very fuckable tree. Girls, call me a woodpecker because I'd tap that trunk. Cheers. And now, this.
And now, the very strange world of ads for personal injury lawyers.
Collision, calamity, catastrophe? Are you innocent, faultless, above reproach? If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog.
In a wreck and thinking about dealing with the insurance company yourself? Stop!
I'm not signing or recording anything with the insurance company until I talk to Tom Dunyan.
Be careful.
After my car wreck, I was careful. I called Tom Dunyan first.
After our client was hit by a dump truck, the insurance company initially offered her $16,000.
We did what we do best. We pushed, and we got our clients $330,000.
Get that deposition done?
Got it.
Nice. Get that Smith case settled?
Settled for 6 figures.
Nailed it. I'm Kevin Kurgis, and I'm a lawyer. I played sports my whole life, and I play to win.
Don't let the insurance company break away with your settlement. Warrior Injury Law is your personal injury power play.
Team Tice is here to listen, here to care, here to get you results.
They'll even tell you how much money your case could be worth. $300,000, $2 million, $86,491, all sorts of numbers.
That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Mission 4. See you next week. Good night.
Slip and falls, work accidents, car, truck, bus, motorcycle, motorbike, e-bike, tandem bike. These bulldogs will make sure people pay.